Welcome, Facebook live stream viewers. You are backstage with Change It Up Radio with Paula Shaw. And I'm so glad you're with me today because we have a really important show. I'm calling it A New Nuclear Threat. There's stuff going on here at San Onofre nuclear plant that you need to know about. There's a threat that we need to be informed about so we can take the action to stop this threat and to make sure that we're all safe. Here with me today is Torgen Johnson, and he is going to be, he's the expert, he is leading the charge in trying to increase awareness about what's going on at the San Onofre nuclear plant. Welcome, Torgen.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here.
Yes, you want to say hi to the Facebook
Yep.
audience?
Hello. Thanks for tuning in and listening.
We're delighted to have him. This is the man who has the expertise that can help us all be informed so that we can know what we can do to help change the current situation. So please stay with us. Torgen will be with us in just a little bit. And right now, we're going to start this show.
Tired of the rut you're stuck in, but don't know what to do?
Change it up. Join life transitions therapist, speaker, and best-selling author Paula Shaw. She'll be exploring topics that make change and the challenge it presents smoother and more productive. She'll also be spotlighting change makers who are leading the charge to make the world a better place. If you're ready to live a more exciting life, at home, in the workplace, and around the world, it's time to step out of your comfort zone and change it up. Now, here's your host, Paula Shaw.
Welcome to Change It Up Radio with Paula Shaw. I am Paula Shaw, and I'm so glad that you're with me today because we have a really important show. There is what I'm calling this show actually A New Nuclear Threat. There are things going on here at San Onofre nuclear plant that we need to know about, and we need to know what kind of action we can take to help avoid some kind of a nuclear disaster. So my goal in this show today is to bring to you the information that will help you know what you can do, how you can do it, so that we can take it to the streets if we have to, but make sure that our leaders know that what's happening is not okay, that we want to preserve our safe, beautiful San Diego and our safe, beautiful country. So we are going to be talking with Torgen Johnson in just a little bit on this show. He is an amazing, brilliant man who's leading the charge to try to inform people about what is actually going on at San Onofre and what we need to do. So please stay with us because he will be with us in our next segment. So, you know, I've been getting a lot of calls and emails, people saying, so tell us a little bit actually about what you do. Well, as most of you know, I'm Paula Shaw. I'm an author. I am the author of 3 books. The first one was called Chakras, the Magnificent 7. It was all about working with your energy centers in your body to create health and joy and peace. And the second book is this one right here called Grief, When Will This Pain Ever End? And that is a book designed to help people on that journey through loss and grief. Because too often we don't know what to do and we stay stuck in the rut of just the sadness or whatever is going on with us. Sometimes it's fear, sometimes it's depression, sometimes it's anxiety. You know, grief can manifest in so many different ways. And so my goal in writing that book was to give you short chapters kind of explaining about the different aspects of grief. I don't call them stages consciously because the 5 stages of grief is a misunderstanding that has been widely perpetrated. The truth is those 5 stages came originally from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's work on the 5 stages of death and dying, But that's a very different experience than the 5 stages of grief, because you don't necessarily experience the same things. So I prefer to talk about dimensions of grief that we experience on that journey, because grief isn't an event, it's a process. It happens over time. And too many people just don't know what to do to try to help themselves to heal their grief and to move to the other side and feel better and regain the quality of their lives. So that was my second book. My latest book, which is one of my favorites, is called Saying the Right Thing When You Don't Know What to Say. And what I love about this book is it's a great companion with the grief book, because too often when people are grieving, we don't know what to say to them. We don't know how to help them. We either end up lecturing them, or we end up telling them what they should do, or we give them a feeling that somehow they're defective because they can't move on. But none of that is true. We need to understand that when people are hurting, and it doesn't matter what the cause is. It could be they lost their job, they broke up with their boyfriend, they got a bad health diagnosis from the doctor. When people are hurting, one of the most important things they need is to interact with other human beings. Isolation is not a good place for healing. And too often, other human beings avoid that person because they're afraid, they don't know the right thing to say or do. And they don't want to make it worse. So out of their fear, they end up not showing up for their loved one who really needs them. And so I think it's really important that we have some clarity about what kinds of things are helpful, what kinds of things are not. And if we feel educated and informed about what to say and what attitude and the right way to approach those conversations, then we feel safe enough to do it. And we'll take that action that's so needed by people who are hurting. So my books are something that I'm really passionate about. I do speaking and teaching based on that work. Right now, I'm also developing an online course called Saying the Right Thing When You Don't Know What to Say, because there's so many people out there that we can reach online and give them this helpful information. So there are many things going on for me that I'm very excited about. I'm also, I believe I shared last week, but this week I was able to have a conversation with the coordinator of a retreat put on by an organization called the War Horse. And the War Horse is doing this beautiful work. They create writing retreats for veterans with PTSD. And these retreats are being led by top flight writers, people who write for the New York Times and for some of the big magazines. And they're helping these young potential authors to understand the basics of writing, to give them good skills, to give them the know-how so that they can take their experience, write about it, share it with all the rest of us, and use that processing to help themselves heal. Because PTSD is a huge problem in our country, most of us know. It's actually a huge problem in the world. And PTSD, by the way, does not just occur for military people who have been in war. PTSD, post-traumatic distress syndrome, is the result of any kind of trauma, huge trauma that's created upheaval in your life. Most often it tends to go hand in hand with violence, but it doesn't always have to. And one of the largest populations in our country suffering PTSD is actually women, young adult women. And their PTSD can be from rape, from feeling threatened, from being sexually harassed, from all kinds of different situations. Many people grow up in abusive families or in abusive situations where anytime your life feels threatened, that's a huge trauma. And that trauma can lead to the creation of post-traumatic stress syndrome, which, as many of us know, can include recurrent nightmares, constant visualization of the trauma. Difficulty with sleep is a big problem. Anxiety, covert anxiety that's there all the time. Sometimes fears and phobias evolve because of those covert anxieties. So what we really need for people who have been through this kind of experience is the opportunity for some kind of processing of the pain, some way to express the pain. Now, many of you know I work in the field of energy psychology. And so in my work, if my clients are open to it, I like to use energy psychology processes, which might be something like tapping the same meridian points they use in acupuncture, or it might be working with visualization. It might be working directly with the chakras or the subconscious mind. We have many modalities in the field of energy psychology, and it's not a bunch of woo-woo stuff. We have a great body of research now showing why these modalities work. We know, because quantum physics has taught us this, that everything is made of energy. And thankfully, we live at a time when we've learned some really fabulous tools that help us to shift energy consciously. We can intervene on it consciously and change it. We can change the way we feel about something, change the way we perceive it. There's all kinds of amazing change possible now in working with the subconscious mind and the energy system. I was just talking with a client the other day who's decided to quit drinking. And he told me about a book that basically starts exploring the habit of drinking from the mind picture, what the brain sees, how the brain sees from the time you're a small child, people associating drinking with joy and with laughter and fun. And so you start getting this conditioning that you need that to be combined with joy and fun. So the alcohol plays that part. But once we know that isn't true, that it's just conditioning, we can take a different course of action much more easily. So I love that. I love neuroscience. I love to work with neuroscience processes. I love having people on the show who are familiar with all that. So in future shows, we will be exploring a lot of those different things. But for those of you who have asked, there's an overview of Paula Shaw and the work that I do. Today, I'm focusing on something very important going on right here in my own community, and it's a potential nuclear threat. So please stay with me, because in my next segment, Torgen Johnson will be educating us about what's happening at San Onofre and what we can do to change it. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Torgen Johnson.
We'll be right back with more Change It Up with Paula Shaw on AM 1170, The Answer.
Now, more than ever, it's important for women to understand why they need a financial strategy. Women tend to make less money than men, live longer, and face more financial challenges during retirement. Hi, I'm Sherry Blair. With evolving roles and increasing responsibilities, women are seeking out ways to become more knowledgeable about their finances. My life's work has been to empower women to make good financial decisions today to help ensure you have a bright future tomorrow. I'm here to help you learn more and to become more. Give me a call for your free no-obligation consultation or a second opinion at 619-997-0416. 619-997-0416. That's 619-997-0416.
Sherry Blair is registered with and securities are offered through Brokers International Financial Services, LLC, member SIPC. Brokers International Financial Services, LLC is not an affiliated company. California license number 0B42369.
Hi, I'm Kelly Klein of OneTrust Home Loans, Loan Coach Kelly. A while back, my business was in a slump, and it triggered a lot of self-doubt and fear, and it even had me questioning if I'd made the right career choice. So I booked a session with Paula Shaw. And after hearing my predicament, she explained that when we get into negative, self-sabotaging thinking and we're being run over by our limiting beliefs, it's almost impossible to create positive outcomes. She helped me clear those destructive thoughts and beliefs using her cutting-edge energy psychology techniques. Not only did I feel a whole lot better after the session, but within 2 weeks, I had 7 loans in my pipeline. I was so glad that I went to see Paula Shaw. And you should too. It really changed my perspective on life, business, and now my business is going great. You can reach her at 626-864-0756. That's 626-864-0756. 626-864-0756. Or check her out at paulashaw.com. That's paulashaw.com.
Welcome back to Change It Up. Now here's your host, Paula Shaw.
Welcome back to Change It Up Radio here with Paula Shaw. And we are proud and delighted to be being brought to you today by LifeWave, leaders in the field of activating your stem cells. LifeWave's phototherapy patches use no drugs and no chemicals to create specific responses in the body that can eliminate pain, improve sleep, actually cause age reversal, and activate your stem cells. So you definitely want to look into the phototherapy patches of lifewave.com. And now here in studio with me is a man that I'm so excited to have with me today because he's doing some very important work. And as most of you know, one of my goals on this show is to help people cope with change and to spotlight change makers, people who are trying to make the world a better place. Well, we're calling this show today A New Nuclear Threat. There's an issue out there that we all need to be aware of, and Torgen Johnson is joining me today so that he can help educate us so that we can take specific actions that can really help make things different and better. So let me tell you a little bit about Torgen Johnson. He holds a professional degree in architecture from the University of Southern California and two master's degrees in urban design and large landscape planning from Harvard University. He's the founder of Johnson Design right here in Solana Beach and formerly Paradigm Design in the U.S. Virgin Islands, both of which are multidisciplinary design firms with services in urban design, urban planning, community-based planning, landscape design, and architecture. But today, he's here to talk to us. He's become very involved in energy issues related to the nuclear power in California, with outreach to Japan and northeastern U.S. He works very closely with the Del Mar-based Samuel Lawrence Foundation, and he resides right here. So like all of us in San Diego, he's very concerned about the situation at San Onofre. So Torgen, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Paula.
And please tell us what is going on in San Onofre that we all need to know about and be concerned about.
Well, I'll just give you just a brief background on how we got here.
Yeah.
The power plant, San Onofre Nuclear Generating Station, was shut down prematurely in 2012, and the company, Southern California Edison, decided not to restart the power plant because of engineering failures in 2 reactor units there. Rather than trying to operate it in a damaged condition, the shutdown occurred on June of 2013, and after the shutdown, the next step was to start to organize the decommissioning of that power plant. It was done relatively quickly, and there's a large amount of nuclear waste at the site, which is almost all of the nuclear waste that was ever generated at that site since its operation in 1968. So we have about 3.6 million pounds of what's called high-level radioactive waste that's now being moved from what are called spent fuel pools next to the reactors. There's 2 of them, and they're being moved into 124 stainless steel thin-walled canisters down by the beach.
Now, let's talk about those canisters for just a moment, because in doing my due diligence, I understand that other people, other countries, and other areas, even of our country, have used canisters, but they seem to be using a canister that has a thicker wall than ours. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Our canisters are between a half an inch and 5/8 of an inch thick. It's about the thickness of your thumbnail.
Oh, my goodness.
And the rest of the world, using a thick cask, uses a system where the walls of those containers are between 10 inches and 19 3/4 of an inch.
Oh, my.
So they're significantly thicker and more robust.
And why on earth would we be using such, in my opinion, an inferior canister when others have seen fit to use one way, way, way bigger?
I think the answer to that is that's the commercially reasonable answer from a utility company looking to maximize profits and sacrifice safety in the process.
Oh, my goodness. So Torgen, just so I understand this clearly, can the nuclear waste work its way through a wall that thin? Does it degrade the actual material that the canister is made of?
Yes. One of the things that wasn't known when these thin-walled Holtec, that's the company that makes these, Holtec International, Holtec canisters were licensed, was that they're vulnerable to what's called corrosion cracking, and it's caused by the salt environment. There's examples of these types of canisters, stainless steel canisters, getting cracking and then through wall cracking all the way through in as little as 17 years.
Oh.
And they're pressurized vessels. So they're pressurized with helium, but there's also hydrogen inside of these canisters. It's on the nuclear waste. Yes, and it can leak out if you have an accident, cracking in a pressurized canister that is damaged or dropped, like almost happened last summer 2 times. Yes, you could have a release of this radioactivity into the environment.
And what would happen if that release occurred?
Well, you have approximately 1,020 Hiroshima bombs worth of radioactive cesium-137 per canister. And that's roughly 1 Chernobyl disaster's worth of cesium-137. The release would be due to the contents inside heating up and the cladding catching fire and releasing the contents. The cesium is the main one that I think the public is concerned about into the environment, and that drifts downwind at the speed of the wind. And you have right now 74 of these large canisters being loaded into a system down at the beach, and you have another 50 canisters that are already loaded. Some of them are as old as 15 years old, just to the inland of the 74 being loaded.
So when you mentioned the salt, you're talking the salt air from the ocean can cause erosion of the metal and weakening of it?
Yeah. The canisters are loaded with 37 radioactive fuel assemblies per canister, which is a very large amount, thermally a very large amount, and weight-wise a very large amount per canister. The canisters are so hot they have to be cooled by convection cooling, and the way they do that is they allow the ambient coastal air, the salty air, to wash over the canisters. They come in an air vent and then back out into the environment. And so the canisters are bathed in a salty environment, and that's maybe the worst environment for stainless steel of this type.
Oh, my gosh. So I'm kind of like, I'm dumbfounded. It's like, who thought of this? So there is an agency that is in charge of nuclear waste, right? And overseeing this, isn't the NRC?
Yeah, the NRC, when like I said, when they licensed these things 20 years ago, they were unaware of this. It's called chloride-induced stress corrosion cracking. And that's the Achilles heel of this thin-walled stainless steel nuclear waste container system. And so the thicker-walled casks, which we should be using here at San Onofre and other sites around the country, have a lot of qualities that these thin cans don't. The thick ones can be monitored. The waste inside can be retrievable because those have a bolted-on lid, whereas the thin stainless steel canisters have a welded shut configuration. You can't get back in there to get the waste if you need to retrieve it and put it into another container. The thick ones can do that. They can be monitored, and they're transportable because they're all one monolithic unit. The thin-walled canisters have to be moved and transported in a thick overpack. The whole thing is very heavy, and that's one of the problems, too, in transporting these out of here. If we want to get this waste out of Southern California, what we need to do is put it in the right container from the start, and we're not doing that at San Onofre. And our regulator, our federal regulators, is not regulating safety on this issue. So it's being left up to a company that's cutting corners on safety.
Oh, my Lord. So let me ask you, if we did, and unfortunately we're going to have to go to a break shortly, but if we did get the right response, what do we do about the waste that's already in those thin-walled containers?
Well, we have to, there's still about another 44 containers worth of nuclear waste that have to be contained, and that's what they've just started doing. That needs to go into thick casks. What we're asking is that we stop the loading of any more nuclear waste into these thin cans that are going to leave us in trouble with this waste stranded on site, and put it in the thick casks. The waste that's in the thin canisters, that's an unfortunate situation because we're stuck with them the way they are. We understand that they've never transported the nuclear waste from thin canisters into thick casks before.
So we can't take those particular canisters and put it into a bigger canister that would be safer?
No. My understanding from Southern California Edison is they have to devise a way to do that. They think it could be a couple of years to figure it out. They said technically they could probably figure it out, but it has never been done before. So we want to make sure what still is to be canned will go into the correct, thick, safer, thick-walled casks.
All right. Well, we need to go to a break, Torgen, but when we come back, we will be looking at this problem in a little more depth and also asking Torgen, what can we do? What needs to happen now to avoid this disaster? We'll be right back.
We'll be right back with more Change It Up with Paula Shaw on AM 1170, The Answer.
Sometimes life throws you a curve. It can be a health scare, divorce, loss of a job, or death of a loved one. And big changes can make you feel stressed out and anxious, depressed, or unable to sleep. Nothing feels comfortable or safe. And that's a tough place to be. Wouldn't it be nice to have someone to talk it over with? Someone who understands why you feel the way you do and knows how to help. Paula Shaw is a life transitions counselor, an expert therapist that can help you deal with unwanted destabilizing change or disruption in your life. Using a variety of mind-body techniques and psychology processes, she helps identify the key issues, eliminating self-sabotage and doubt to get you rapid results. Paula Shaw Counseling is open to all people, all ages, and all walks of life. Big life changes can be tough. Paula Shaw can help you get through it. Call 858-480-9234. That's 858-480-9234. 858-480-9234.
My business has lost its upward momentum. I'm working up to 14 hours a day, but my sales seem to have plateaued. I'm so overwhelmed.
I used to have that same problem, but ever since I found the Balanced Millionaire Consulting Firm, our sales and profits have risen sharply. Even our staff is more engaged, and the atmosphere is full of energy.
I have no time to work on my business to develop new sales and marketing strategies. I would love to expand, have strategic partnerships, and access to financing.
You can do all of that and more. The Balanced Millionaire Consulting Team advises you on streamlining your operations, establishing alliances, and most importantly, increasing your revenues and profits.
Let us help you build value and reduce stress in your business. Take charge. Don't let your business control your life. Visit thebalancedmillionaire.com or call 442-224-0160 for a free consultation. That's 442-224-0160 or thebalancedmillionaire.com.
Welcome back to Change It Up. Now here's your host, Paula Shaw.
Welcome back to Change It Up Radio with Paula Shaw. I have in studio with me today a man who's talking to us about a very, very important situation. His name's Torgen Johnson, and we're talking about the potential nuclear threat that exists at San Onofre nuclear plant. So in our last segment, we were discussing the canisters that the nuclear waste is being stored in, which are not even close to being thick enough to keep us safe. They're 1/2 inch to 5/8 of an inch thick, where in other countries and other places, even in our country, they're using canisters that are 10 to 19 inches thick, which obviously is going to give much more protection to that nuclear waste. So, Torgen, obviously we could create another Chernobyl should one of those canisters crack, break, the waste be released, correct?
Yeah, you'd have a release into the environment. It would be a catastrophic release along the coast. It would be unprecedented. And I think what the public needs to know is that the assumption that many of us had is that this is a very tightly regulated industry. Mm-hmm. What we've learned over the last 8 years since the shutdown of San Onofre is that the federal regulator, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, who has sole jurisdiction over safety at San Onofre, regulates on a utilities company's self-reporting of regulation violations. In other words,
self-reporting.
Yeah, which it's
so if they don't tell on themselves, it doesn't exist.
And that's exactly what happened last August. Is they had a near-miss disaster of one of these 54-ton canisters almost dropping 18 feet in a loading rig. There were some temp workers on site operating this rig. They had very little experience. They're not from the nuclear industry. And this near miss happened when what canister was being lowered into the vault in the ground, and it got stuck up inside of the transfer rig, 18 feet above the floor of the vault, and all of the cable was let go slack, and the canister was hanging by a 1/4 inch lip of steel. And during that time, these workers were looking up and they couldn't figure out what was going wrong. Well, 6 days later, at a public community engagement panel meeting, Southern California Edison didn't lead on and tell anybody about this near-miss disaster. It had actually happened on August 3rd, but again, prior to that, on July 22nd. It's an accident that almost happened twice. Well, it took an OSHA safety worker to come forward and become a whistleblower and risk his job to report this to the public, and he wanted to report it to the public there because he said he was very disappointed that Southern California Edison didn't share this with the public, but he said that he was willing to risk his job because he made a promise to his daughter, his 14-year-old daughter, that she said that if nobody came forward to talk about it, she compelled her dad to speak up, even if it meant losing his job, and he did.
Oh, that's a beautiful story. So why? Well, of course, you don't know who created the setup, but I'm so moved by that story and so terrified by it at the same time. So what we're looking at here is Southern California Edison doesn't have to tell on itself. They are supposed to. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission is counting on them doing that. But like you said, it took a whistleblower to bring that case out in the open. What do we have going for us, Torren? What's going for us? What isn't going for us?
Well, what's not going for us right now is that what caused that those two near-miss accidents were engineering defects and deficiencies in this nuclear waste storage system at San Onofre. And that whistleblower coming forward stopped the loading of all the nuclear waste for a period of almost a year while the system was being inspected and the near-miss disaster analyzed. Unfortunately, what happened was the regulator asked the companies, Southern California Edison and Holtec International, what happened. And in that self-reporting system, it was reported that essentially it was the temp workers' fault.
Oh, my God.
And not the engineering fault. So the serious engineering faults of the corrosion cracking and the transfer rig that catches these canisters and potentially allows them to fall, the ability that we can't monitor these things, we can't detect cracks in these canisters, we cannot transfer waste out of a damaged or leaking canister. These are all defects in the system that ratepayers are paying for. We do have jurisdiction over that at the state level. We could stop this system at the state level. But the fact that it's been reported as a temp worker problem, and that we can just train the temp workers a little bit more is a fatal flaw. And I think that's where the public needs to speak up now and say, no, this is not acceptable. And we have a lot of people speaking up. We have a former U.S. Navy admiral, Rear Admiral Len Herring, who was in charge of the U.S. Navy's Region Southwest, which is a region that extends all the way out to China. Mm-hmm. He is very concerned, very outspoken about this problem. There's another Dr. Tom English, who was a nuclear waste policy expert for presidential administrations in the past, the government of Sweden, Caltech.
He knows his stuff.
Knows his stuff, and he's also very outspoken. We have other scientists speaking out, and now we have elected officials starting to understand the problem. So we're making progress in alerting people that there's a serious problem, and we're getting a lot of agreement that this is definitely a serious problem, both what's happening on site and the lack of proper regulation. Our federal government is not doing its job. That's the bottom line here.
So what do they need to do, and is there anything we can do to help make that happen?
Yes, the first thing is to become informed of what's going on here, because this is a regional problem. This nuclear waste could be stranded here on the beach indefinitely, and by default, we in Southern California here become a nuclear waste dump. We never agreed to that when the public agreed to have San Onofre built and run. Now it's by default becoming a nuclear waste dump because there's no place to transfer this waste.
Right.
What we need to do is, instead of focusing at the moment on where we're going to send this waste, because all the experts are telling us, people from Congress are telling us there's no place to send it, what we need to do and what we can do proactively to solve some of the short-term problem is get the right containers, because with this technology, the most important thing is containment, containing the radioactivity, containing the things that can escape from the power plant or from these waste canisters. Contain it in the best system available. Anything short of that is unconscionable.
And do I understand that Southern California Edison doesn't want to pay the money for those good containers, the safe containers?
That's correct. They said that they would entertain any ideas as long as they were commercially reasonable. So what we need to do is demand what's reasonable for the community around the power plant and what is